Hello, music fans. Welcome to Full Record Jacket with Phil and Ben. He's got to be there somewhere
I'm
down
going to
there.
do this whole show, Phil,
Oh,
through the
okay.
talking of my own hand.
Great. I'm sure our regular viewers will be thrilled by that prospect. So, this is what Ben's been listening to.
I haven't been listening to anything, Phil, on my hand. I haven't got ears.
Okay. So, what have you really been listening to?
1 second. One second, Phil. All right.
Was it on vinyl?
It was on vinyl. I've been listening to a lot of stuff on vinyl. My first album up, and I shared it with you the other day, is this by Lee Gregory. I think it's Lee Gregory. Sun, Salt and Air, which is very John Martin, very... what's the Irish guy called? Bit Van Morrison, bit Bob Dylan in parts, bit Neil Young.
So very singer-songwriter.
Yeah. I mean, it's really... Do you know what? This is possibly one of my favourite albums of the last few months. It's a really good album.
The first track was impressive. I've only heard the first track.
Oh, Alison's Not Happening Anymore.
Sure, that's the one I listened to, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I told you I'd listened to the first track.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a lovely album cover. The album cover's really cool as well.
It's kind of groovy.
When I was listening to it, I was like, he does sound very Dylan-y, very... like the artist I said, Neil Young.
He's listened to all of them. He's absorbed all of them, has he?
Yeah. No, very good album. I don't know too much about him, to be fair. I know he's got a Facebook page, and he's only got about 20-odd listeners on YouTube, or Spotify even. So go on there, check him out, boost his listener numbers. I'm really, really impressed with that album. That has to be one of my best buys and listens to of recent months.
So that's Lee Gregory.
Lee Gregory, Sun, Salt and Air. So, you need to get round to finishing the rest of that album, Phil. So, and obviously the other album I've been listening to, and I haven't listened to it on this. I know I said I've been listening to all on album, but I have been listening to this, not this copy.
You've been streaming it.
I've been streaming Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds, Council Skies. We'll do a full review on this album. Very, very good album.
I know I'm going to get a mental block about that album. I'm going to keep calling it Council Estates, guys. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, so, brilliant album. I mean, obviously, it's only came out today, 2nd of June. So it's had three full listens.
Okay.
So, so it's been it's a good album, Phil. So, you've been listening to anything, or do you want to hear my next one?
I've only listened to odd little bits of different things. I haven't really had anything that I could really talk about very interesting. And anything I have, I think I've probably talked about it before. So,
no, I thought you'd been listening to the Doors.
Oh, sorry, I have, because we were thinking about doing a
Doors
review, weren't we? I can't say a huge amount about this album because I don't know that much about it. But it's L.A. Woman, which was, of course, the final album to feature Jim Morrison as lead singer of the Doors. It's the 6th Doors album, I believe. Came out in 1971. And I do like it because it's quite bluesy. And
it's raw as well. That's what I like about the Doors, is they sound quite...
This is quite a live one. I mean, they did do some psychedelic-y stuff. But
it's like a psychedelic. And I know a lot of people slag off Jim Morrison's voice, but I like that sort of
Jim Morrison,
amblingness of it.
He is Marmite for some people.
I like Marmite.
Partly because they think I think some people think that his poetry and his all the words he wrote, that it was a bit pretentious. And I can kind of get that, and I do think that he is a little bit there is an OTT element to him, but then I kind of like that about it, and I just quite enjoy it.
Was he the 60s version of Chris Martin?
Yeah. I mean, I don't see him as any kind of... I don't take him that seriously in terms of his lyrics. I don't think he's got deep meaning, and
no.
I don't buy into him that way. I just think he was an entertaining rock star. And I think the fact that he did do some of these slightly unusual lyrics just makes it kind of interesting. Yeah. It's a bit larger than life. There's no, why can't rock and roll be a bit larger than life? But on this album, I mean, obviously the one before, Morrison Hotel, was also a return to the more rootsy rock sound after they did their psychedelic couple of albums. And then this continued in even more of a bluesy, raw kind of vein. It does sound very much, I think they did perform it pretty much just together in the studio and put
Yeah.
these takes down. There's a 50th anniversary edition of LA Woman, which you can stream, and there's outtakes from the sessions. And for example, the opening track, The Changeling, there's a 26-minute sequence of it's basically multiple takes of the song, but you can hear how it kind of developed towards the final take. But it's all, it all sounds similar to the final version.
I was actually thinking about the Doors today because I don't normally put music radio on, and Madonna's Beautiful Stranger came on. And there's a bit in that, isn't there? It's got almost like a Hammond-y organy sort of Beautiful Stranger. Yeah, that bit, yeah.
And it sounds a bit like Light My Fire by the Doors.
Yeah. It's almost got that organy sound to it. And that made me think of the Doors today while I was scrambling to get my...
I've never thought... That Madonna song was played a lot on the radio at the time when it came out, wasn't it? Why have I never linked that? Why have I never thought that sounds a bit Doors-ish? And it does.
That's what I'm here for, Phil.
That is what you're here for.
I'm like the doorway into your mind to... but yeah, it does. It's got a very much a sort of... Is it a Hammond organ? Is it a mellotrone?
I think it's I think it probably is a Hammond organ.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's... LA Woman, what can we say about it? So I just like the bluesy feel. I like the sound of it.
Yeah, I do as well.
I mean, Morrison sounds shockingly old for the age that he was in parts of it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously his addiction problems had definitely taken their toll on his voice. He was only like 26 or something, wasn't he?
Yeah,
And he sounds a lot older. And of course, let's say all the tracks on it are good, but the big closer, of course, is Riders on the Storm. Are you a fan of Riders on the Storm?
Yeah, because that's serial killer music, that is. Every time I hear that song, I think, I'm going to die.
I can imagine if someone who's listened to classic rock stations too much, you're perhaps fed up with Riders on the Storm, because I can imagine it being one of those songs that gets played a lot. But I don't really listen to those sorts of stations, so it's still a bit special for me. I put it on, and it has got a great atmosphere. You listen to that at night.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's very atmospheric. So, yes, I like it. LA Woman. I think it's a very good rock album. I don't know whether I'd say is it a classic? I think it's up there.
I think it's not probably one of your top 10 classics, but
no, I think it's still good.
Yeah. See, I don't listen to music radio. I find when I'm driving, I do have music on in the car, but it has to be of my choice. And 9 times out of 10, I'm listening to Talk Sport, so that's or 5 Live, something like that. So I do listen to music in the car, but I like the talkiness of it. Or maybe I should just listen to Chris Christopherson in the car, because that is just talking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's half talking, isn't it?
Yeah. So do you want my next one I've been listening to?
Okay.
The third one. Now, this is an album that you have promised me that you were going to listen to.
Oh, yeah. Have I not done it?
And it is also the joint winner of the 90s One Hit Wonders.
Oh, of course, it's the yellow one.
The New Radicals.
The New Radicals.
I've been listening to this because obviously because of doing the One Hit Wonders and listening to You Only Get What You Give. And then I put it on and I was like, there's something about this album that makes me feel I'm young anyway, but even younger. It just makes me sort of, I don't know, there's just something about it. I like the front cover. The front cover's quite cool. And
am I thinking right that they only made that one album?
Only made this one album.
So they kind of like
released 2 singles from
so
it as well.
So they're kind of like an American version of the Lars, aren't they?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, I'd say that. I mean, Greg Alexander, this gentleman here, who went on to write Life is a Roller Coaster by Ronan Keating. Daniel, I know you like that point, Phil. Daniel Braybois, who does the backing vocals and everything on this, he did do backing vocals and write a lot of her solo stuff. And then I do have a playlist on my Spotify called Greg's Wonder Basket, and it's basically all the songs that Greg Alexander has written for other people, and I've sort of compiled it in order to make what would have been a couple more New Radicals albums.
Okay.
So if you want me to, yeah, it is called Greg's Wonder Basket. But obviously there's Murder on the Dance Floor in there by Sophie Ellis Bextor. He did The Game of Love, which was originally done with Santana and Tina Turner, but then was done with Santana and Michelle Branch. There's Lovin' Each Day by Ronan Keating, again. I Love It When We Do by Ronan Keating, again. Music Gets the Best of Me, Sophie Ellis Bextor. There's a lot of Sophie Ellis Bextor. Lost Without Each Other, Hanson. So there's one track on it which I didn't realise he'd written until, obviously he did Lost Stars from the Keira Knightley and Mark Ruffalo film. Really good soundtrack. And the movie's done by the Irish director who did the film Once, which has also got a really good soundtrack. But he did the song, remember this song Inner Smile by Texas? Do you want me to
I must have heard it. We can't play it on here because we might get.
But he
shut
obviously
down.
wrote that song as well. So yeah,
I think I would know that. That was a hit played at the time. I think
it was. So I'll be listening to that to take me back to the period of my youth I will never ever get back. But you need to listen to it, Phil. You need to give me an honest thingy on it because I've been banging on about this album since 1999.
I know.
And it's got more drug references than any other album I've ever listened to.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yeah, the whole thing is because he was brought up in quite a strict, I think he was a Jehovah's Witness, quite a strict upbringing.
Okay.
I mean, one of the tracks is actually called Jehovah Made This Whole Joint for You.
Okay.
Jehovah made this whole joint for you,
So is it
Carolina.
quite poppy? Is it quite poppy? Is it quite melodic?
It's quite, I would say, very sort of, the first few tracks are just like, it's got one of the best opening 4 tracks to an album, and then it goes a little world party, but it's just a really good album. It's uplifting rock pop, isn't it? So, and then finally, Phil, and I've waited since 2013 for this. Obviously, I got the limited edition box set last year, or the year before last year, of all their studio albums, which had been remastered, and then their best of, which had been remastered and revised and done in a different way. But this is the follow-up to 2013's North album, and I've waited since then for the new Matchbox 20 album called Where the Light Goes.
So that's brand new.
That is brand new. It came out last week. It's produced by Greg Wattenberg, and Rob Thomas isn't the principal songwriter on a lot of it. Paul Doucette writes, is probably the main songwriter on it. I think him and Rob Thomas have got 2 or 3 solo credits, but then they've got co-writing credits. I think Paul Doucette, who was the drummer, now the lead guitarist or rhythm guitarist, he writes it's just a really good, happy, feel-good album. They've gone from being angsty from the late 90s with things like Push, 3 AM, Real World, that angsty sort of American post-grunge band. And they've kind of morphed into, obviously Rob Thomas went and did Smooth with Carlos Santana. He wrote I think it's the opening track on Mick Jagger's Goddess in a Doorway album. So he wrote one of the tracks on there.
Right.
He's obviously had solo records as well. Kyle Cook's had a solo record with Wolves from 2018, really good album. I think Kyle Cook's got another solo project called Rivers and Rust. But yeah, they've gone from being angsty, post-grunge American, all in black leather sort of eyeliner, to being sort of grown up. They've almost become guitar-based Take That, in a way, I would say. Good songwriting, good songs by a band, which is what you don't get anymore. But it's not depressive. It's happy, it's good. It's good music, Phil, which is what we want, isn't it? It may not be to everybody's taste, but that's what's been on the old spinner disc behind me this week. So some good albums there, but definitely that Lee Gregory album. I think people should go out there, and these smaller artists need more listens on their Spotify's and stuff to get more funds in so they can keep producing good music.
So that's our recommendation of the week. Lee Gregory.
Yes,
check him out.
Yeah. Only because he's a smaller artist and the others have got big corporations behind him. So go check out Lee Gregory. Check him out on Facebook. He looks a little bit like the lead singer of the Waterboys, but we'll tag him into one of these videos or one of our Instagram posts, and we'll see if we can get some messages from him. So I'm good at that.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that has been what Ben has been listening to. Thanks for your likes, thanks for your shares, thanks for your follows, thanks for your viewing and making it to the end of these videos. We appreciate it. Take care.
I do.